All right, we're recording. Welcome back to the Daily Dilemma. This is a podcast that discusses the daily dilemmas of a new versus experienced business professional taking on corporate America. And I'm Emma.
And I'm Brian
For
Burns.
and this is a father-daughter podcast, and so we're just going to talk a little bit more about how to not look desperate when looking for a job. So how to take no's and how to approach different positions in a way that you're not pestering them, but you're making sure they know that you want the job or the position.
Yeah, there's kind of a fine line, right, between pestering and being persistent. Um, I like the term pleasantly persistent
Yes.
because you can be persistent and show that you're eager and interested. You can, um, show that you're good at follow up and being on top of things without being unpleasantly so. Doing it with the right attitude and the right approach can make all the difference.
I completely agree. I think approach is like the number one thing because I've never been a recruiter, but I can only imagine how many people they get applying applicants a day. And when they're trying to find someone who's a good fit for the role, but is also, wants a position, it can be really difficult being in both shoes.
Yeah, for
both
sure.
been both kind of been in the position where we're really searching for a certain position and it's not necessarily gone our way, or we've had to take the nose. How do you navigate that?
I think the key is really just to have good follow up. Make sure that you're on top of anything that they've requested, whether that's going online and filling out the application online. That's how most companies are doing it these days. Sending a resume, a lot of times they want you to send it to them anyway. um, and just doing that as soon as you can, like get it to them quickly, respond to any emails quickly,
Mhm.
offer up dates and times if they need them for next steps. And I think being on top of that is is good, and that's what they want, that's what they're looking for. And it's okay to check in occasionally, but you don't want to overdo it either. You don't want to seem desperate. You don't want to be like, um, you know, you just messaged in the morning and then you're messaging them again in the afternoon because you didn't hear back. Maybe give it a day, give it 24 hours, 48 hours even. But you don't want it to go too long. You kind of have to use your gut a little bit and follow up when it really makes sense, and um, don't be a pest.
I remember for me, I was applying to different internships as a freshman in college, and that was very uncommon because normally you would get intern positions as a senior. But
Hmm.
I knew what I wanted to do, I knew what industry I wanted to be in. So I remember specifically reaching out to ADP recruiters, UKG recruiters, because those were the main two companies I knew in the HCM role at that time or world at that time.
Yeah.
So I would reach out to the recruiters. I would mark on my calendar, okay, follow up in a month, follow up in a month. Like every single month, I would follow up with them until they were making their decision of who they wanted to have as an intern that year. And I remember I got a call one day, and this was right before the decision they made to like who would be their interns for that year. And she goes, "What year are you?" And I said, "I'm a freshman in college." And she goes, "I'm so sorry. We don't have any positions like for freshmen. It's normally seniors who are about to graduate and then would take on a full time role with them." And it made sense to me, but I was also pretty disappointed because this is something I really wanted. So I just said, "Well, you don't have to pay me, but is there anyone I can shadow?" And just
Mhm.
making sure they knew your intent was to work for them, whether you, I mean, it's a little different if you're looking for a full time role. You can't necessarily shadow for free, but
Sure.
making sure it's apparent that you're eager and that you really want the role. And then that next year, they remembered me because I kept following up every single month. I made sure I followed up, and I ended up getting offers from all three companies that I wanted, and I went with the one that I wanted the most for the internship. And I actually just got promoted to a full time position with them. But I think
And Congratulations. Good job, Emma.
Thank you. But I think it just goes to show like yeah, there is a fine line between pestering and wanting something, but just go after what you want and don't stop. Don't take the no's because especially in our world with sales, they don't want to see people that take notes. They want to see people who are like, okay, well, when can I like reapply?
Persistent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what can I do to be the best candidate for the job? That type of stuff.
Right. So what do you do when you do get a no? Like, how do you handle that?
I don't take no's. I don't take no's. No, I asked her, I set aside a list of questions I had for her, and it was basically like, okay, well, how can I be the best candidate? What do I need to do to improve my resume? What do you want to see from me next? I also documented every question they asked me, so I knew the next time I was going to be interviewing for internships, I knew what they were going to ask me and I knew how to answer the questions. I also reached out to other people in the company and I asked them how they like their role, what's necessary for the role, what were they asked during their interview questions, how they answered them, and some of the qualifications, etc. And that really helped me to just know the position, know the company. I did a lot of research on the company.
So you do all of that. You do all of those things
Yeah.
and you follow up and you tell them you're not taking no for an answer and they're like, I'm really sorry, we've selected someone else. What do you do then?
Think it's tough, but it just depends on what situation you're in. For me, I waited 3 years until they finally said yes, but I had the ability to because I was still in college. And I
Sure.
applied every year, my freshman year, sophomore year, and junior year, which is finally when I started to get internship positions. Um, Obviously, if you're your age, you can't necessarily take 3 years to hear a yes from a
Mm.
company. But what you can do is you can go to another company that kind of does the same thing and get the experience needed. So if you really do want the position with that one company, you can go back to them and say, look, here's what I've done, here's my accomplishments. And that is kind of what I did is I took a position over the pandemic as a property manager, but that allowed me to show on my resume that I could be a manager, so I can manage people. I can manage
Yep.
me because I did all the reports for like financial reports, used Excel
Yeah.
a ton. I got a ton of knowledge about that. I also worked with like contractors, architects. I just did a bunch of things that I didn't know how to do prior. And then I also showed my sales. I increased revenue 50,000 year over year. Um, and that helped a lot. That helped to show
Yeah. That's
like,
huge.
yeah, it helped to show like, okay, I can do these specific things that they asked for. So um, yeah, it's hard though because certain positions they want you to have experience, but they don't want to offer you the experience. They just want you to get it on your.
Yeah. So it's a catch-22, right? So you have to get experience to have experience, but you can't get a job to get the experience unless you have experience. So there's no winning, right? So you got to find somebody that's willing to take a chance on you or do something just below that position in order to build up and get some experience that's related. What I would say though, that you kind of touched on is in some cases it's just not meant to be, right? And we're looking for a job that we're a good fit for and that that they want us and we want them and it's the right match that we're going to be because we want to be successful in whatever role we're in. And sometimes you feel like, well, I could be successful and I could make it happen. But at the end of the day, in many cases, it just may not be meant to be. And they may be doing you a favor by saying no because you weren't going to be successful in that role because you weren't the right fit or that manager doesn't, you didn't click with them and they, you wouldn't have been a good, uh, I don't know. Yeah, fit. I think fit is the best word for it. So I think sometimes it's a blessing in disguise when you get a no. And yes, we should persist and try and do all the things. Another thing I like to tell people when they're interviewing for a job, don't just interview for one job, have multiple that you're talking to, because the best thing to do is but the worst thing that can happen is you get multiple offers, right? And you've got to choose between them. But don't stop until you get the offer, because it's not anything until you have an offer in your hands.
Yeah.
So keep pressing, keep trying until you get that offer, and then you can always turn it down. I know we're so used to once we have something and we've been pushing so hard for it that we want to just accept it. But if we get a couple of offers, then you have choices to make, and it puts you in a better position, kind of puts you in the power position, so to speak.
Yeah. And I feel like there's two sides to that coin. Like there's one where it's like it might not be a good fit, but I think there's another side where I touched on this as well, but if you want something, don't stop at anything to get it. If you truly want to work for a company, I think you should not attack, that's kind of not the word I want to use, but press other people in the company. And whether that's in mailing, the
Yeah, same thing we do in sales, right? We send in-mails, we send emails, we send
exactly.
voicemails,
Maybe the manager
text
you were
messages.
trying to be hired by was not a good fit for you, but I'm sure someone is. So if you really want to work for them, you need to just go after it. And I think also in the interview
But
process,
maybe in the case where you're not in school and you can't just wait 3 years, you might take something else in the meantime and then continue to pursue that position.
exactly. I think also it's really easy after you think the first interview went really well and you were really well prepared to just kind of stay there and wait till, they give you that next step. But something you taught me while I was doing my like trying to interview for internship positions, is that after you're done interviewing, you send them a Google Slides or PowerPoint of why you're the perfect fit for the role. And the reason this,
Yeah, so this is a technique that I learned from my good friend Scott, your uncle Scott. Um, he taught me that this technique, and it's been effective for me in the past, where you go through the job. I'm sorry if I cut you off.
oh, you're
Um, you basically go through the job description if you can get a hold of it,
good.
and you take every line item on that job description, you make a slide out of it, and you make that your title of your slide, or something like the title of your slide, and then you put all the things the qualities you have, the experiences you have, the skills that you have as bullet points under that job description line item, and then you do that on each slide. And I like to add pictures and things like that if I can, to make it more interesting. But yeah, it's a really good technique that you can use, because it shows your employer, your future employer, the recruiter, whoever that is, that you understand the job, you've done some homework, you've gone the extra mile to make it to put together this presentation, and
And that you
and
meet every requirement and that you have the qualifications for it.
right, and most of the things you may have talked about in your interview, but all this is doing now is reinforcing those things.
I
So when
think
they look back at it, they remember those conversations, those answers that you gave.
exactly. And I think why it's so special is because, at least for me, I'm a very visual learner. And so when you're talking to someone, of course, you're absorbing the information, but you're talking to a lot of people. When you see it right in front of your face, here's why I'm important, here's why I
Right.
would be the best fit, it's really hard to deny. It's really hard to look at it and go, oh, I don't think they would be a good fit for this role. So that's why I think it's so effective.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. And as I've been in both roles where I was interviewing for a job and also interviewing people for a job that I was hiring for. And if somebody took the time to show me, like, it might have been there might even be things that I didn't think to ask them about
Yeah.
that, or that I just assumed they didn't have that experience. And then say it again.
Or that we can't showcase. So while we're interviewing, say you didn't ask, but we
Right.
also didn't get the chance to answer certain things in our, because you get nervous. You kind of
Sure.
just go to your initial response, but this allows you to really go into why.
More detail. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great ad, Emma. I like that.
So I think another thing we can run into sometimes is we obviously have LinkedIn and we kind of use it as our resume. And a lot of times we'll get recruiters that'll reach out to us, want to learn more about us for a specific role they have, but maybe it's not the company we want.
Mm.
How do you handle looking at these people that want you versus the jobs you want and making the decision on which one you'd rather have? Or say you interview with both and you feel like
Yep.
you're in a good position to take either role. However, this company you've worked really hard to get and you finally got someone and they seem like they're really excited about you, but this one has been excited all along. And they're really adamant about you working for them and they've been on your team since the beginning. How do
Yeah.
you handle that?
So I think it's both. I think that you want to work somewhere that you want to work, but you also want to work somewhere that wants you.
Yeah.
So I think it goes back to what I was saying. Sometimes someone's doing you a favor by saying no
Yeah.
because you weren't a good fit. And I think that's what I would do is take a look at, am I a good fit? Which role am I the better fit for? I mean, and you're assuming that all things are equal, right? The pay, the responsibilities, the way it looks on your resume. I mean, sometimes that can be a huge thing. Like when I was trying to get into enterprise sales, and when you're offered a role that gives you that experience, sometimes even if it isn't paying you more, maybe it's the same, maybe it's even a little less at first. But now you're getting that experience that you can't get anywhere else, right? That you need in order to advance your career if that's where you want to be. So it might not be the company you wanted, but you're getting the title that you wanted and the experience that you wanted working with larger companies, or in a role that you've been striving for. That might play into the decision as well. So you kind of have to look at the whole package,
Mhm.
and sometimes it feels good to be pursued, but don't let that overshadow your decision either, because sometimes it just feels so good that someone wants you that you overlook something, another position that may have been better for you. So you kind of have to weigh all of those factors. I think it's the back to the fit. Where am I the best fit? What's the best fit for me in terms of pay? The role. Am I going to be successful at this? Is it a good match?
But I think what you just said is kind of controversial.
Contradicting?
Controversial and contradicting because in one point you said that you should take the role that might give you the title that you want, but in another you said make sure you're a good fit for the role. So I think there's two very fine lines that can be very difficult for people to navigate.
I agree. And that's why I said you have to kind of evaluate the entire package,
Yeah.
and decide if, what if one is got everything you wanted and it has the title that you've been striving for, then maybe you take it even though it wasn't necessarily the company you've been pursuing. I think that's what I was trying to say. And then if it's company you're pursuing and everything else lines up and you feel like you're a good fit, even though this other company may offer you more money, you have to kind of weigh those things. So it kind of is this,
Yeah, balancing. You have to look long
yeah.
term though. That's very important is like that you're making sure you're setting yourself up for success because especially at my age, I'm so young that it's like you have to look years in advance and how one decision could affect that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, though, life is short, and I'm learning that more as I get older.
Yep.
And where you work and who you work for and who you work with, it does matter, because those are precious days, months, weeks, years of your life that you don't get back. And
And it affects
so
your performance as a worker.
yeah, so you might think that this one has a really great comp plan, but if you're working for someone that you really don't mesh with, you may not be successful at it.
Yeah.
Or it's a role that you just don't really feel like you're a good fit for. It might look good from on paper, but it may not be the right fit for you. So take all those things into consideration.
Yeah. I
Like
think
I think I talked about it in our one of our early podcasts is that or episodes is that I was offered a job at Verizon Wireless at one point, and I thought, oh, this job is beneath me because I was literally having to go and knock on doors of businesses and pull up to a business park and go door to door asking them if they wanted to buy cell phones. And that seemed like, oh my gosh, I'd been in a management role working with large companies like Circuit City and some Office Depot and some of those larger companies. And I'm like, now I'm going to be doing small business and walking door to door. And it seemed like um, it wasn't the right fit, but it turned out to be a really good learning for me. I learned a ton. I got to work for somebody that is still a mentor to me today. In fact, he just messaged me today about some motorcycle techniques because I'm a new Harley rider, fairly new, and he's been riding for years and years, and he gives me tips now and then, and so yeah, it's hard to know, and I think what I was going to say is that it turned out, even though on paper it didn't look as good, I actually made more money than I had made previously in my career. So anyway, a lot of factors.
yeah, that's
I,
so true.
I don't know if there's a simple answer to that one, Emma.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think all you have left is yourself, and you just have to believe in yourself. Go with your gut, try to make the best decisions you can, but at the end of the day, there's millions of jobs out there, and you know what you have, and then
Well,
go.
in today's market, that's true. That's not always the case, though. I mean, we're entering into a recession, or at least that's what we're hearing. And in some cases, there's not a lot of jobs out
That's
there.
true.
Sometimes in history, right? So you don't always have a lot of options. So you got to take what you're given. And that was kind of the
Do your
case for
best.
me when I was out of work that time, and I ended up at Verizon, and it turned out to be a huge blessing. Um, so let me ask you this, Emma. What's a good way to approach a company that you want a job at? Like, yeah, hey, I really want to work here. How do you approach them?
I think I kind of mentioned it before, but the way I approached companies I wanted to work um, for an intern position was I would get my resume really clean, make sure it's all updated. That's the first thing I did. Then I went on to LinkedIn. I searched up those companies. I looked up recruiters in the department that I wanted specifically. Then I emailed all of them or messaged all of them via LinkedIn, and I would just ask. I would say, "Hi, my name is Emma Burns. Who would be the best contact for me to reach for this position, for an internship position?" And a lot
Yeah.
of times people were really kind and they would give me the direct contact. I then went to that contact and I said, I spoke to this person and they gave me your name and said that you would be the best contact for me to reach out to regarding an internship position. Normally they wouldn't respond, but sometimes you would get responses. I happened to
Yeah.
get two great emails. I emailed them every single month, like I said, for 2 to 3 years until I was able to be um, a candidate for the position. And then once the interview process came, it felt so seamless because I had done all that preparation, because they knew my name, because they had a record of all the emails I had sent them. It felt familiar when I got on the phone with them because I had
Yep.
talked to them before. And it was really cool because once they were offering me the job, I felt in control of the situation versus feeling like you're constantly grabbing at something that's not there. And
Mm,
so all that work had finally come down to like, okay, it's on me to decide. And that allowed me, like you said, you want to make sure you have multiple offers because then it allows you to look into the company's values, what they stand for, what they do for their, like what the employees' work life looks like, that they value,
yeah.
you know, a healthy work life balance, all those things. And then you can ultimately determine where you see yourself as a good fit. So it kind of all plays, all of that plays into, um, making sure that it's a company you want. Because in the beginning, even in the job I currently work, I had no clue about the company. But I decided that I wanted to work for them because I had done all that research and
Yeah.
made sure that I was going to be a good fit. And also just talking to the different recruiters, interviewers, all of that. You want to focus on tone of voice. You want to focus on all these things that go into, okay, this seems the follow up emails, how they respond, all that plays into,
Yep.
yeah, I think this is going to be the right one. You just get a feeling, just like when you're selling and somebody on the phone goes, you know, I got a good feeling about this. That's how you feel when you know it's the right position.
Sounds like a song. I got a feeling.
I know. What do they normally say? They say, I got the
Yeah.
warm, fuzzy
Yeah.
feeling. That's
Ah, the warm and fuzzies.
got the warm and fuzzies. And that's the exact thing you want to feel when you're applying and looking for a job. And it doesn't come all the time. Sometimes it takes a long time to get a warm and fuzzy feeling about a position, but eventually you do want to feel it to know it's the right thing.
Yeah, so I have a couple thoughts on this. First, though, I had it. It's something I was going to mention in the previous in our previous topic. Um, is that the other thing that you can do when you're balancing between those two companies is run it by some people you know and you trust,
Yes.
right? Maybe a family member, maybe significant other, maybe it's somebody that doesn't necessarily work with you, but is in a similar type of job and knows kind of
Lay
the
the land.
the landscape. Yeah, exactly. And they can you can bounce it off of them and let them ask you questions and even sometimes just saying it out loud when you're talking about it, you'll find yourself either excited about one or you'll
Yeah.
be talking it through and going, why am I even considering this other, I'm clearly leaning towards this other way, but they may hear that in your voice when they're talking to you. So I would add that as another thing you can do to kind of help decide between two. But when you're talking about approaching a company, you said something earlier about LinkedIn and LinkedIn and resume, right? LinkedIn has become the resume of
Yeah.
today.
It
So
has.
you really want to keep your LinkedIn profile up to date with all the companies that you've worked at, any awards you've won, any volunteer work you do, books you've read, things like that, because sometimes someone will look at that and they'll just connect with you because they see who you are a little bit. I mean, this podcast, right? So they can go on my LinkedIn and watch me and see who I am and who, you know, watch me talk to you and our relationship and those kind of things. And either they may like me, they may not, I may not be their cup of tea, but that's good for them to know and good for you to get it out there so that they can see. But ultimately that is where recruiters look.
Mm.
And that's my other point is that find the recruiter, find whoever the recruiter is. And if you're on LinkedIn and you're connected with enough people, usually you know somebody that works for that company or worked for that company or know somebody that worked at that company and
Or
you
you
can
can even
connect
you went to the same like college.
college.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it'll come up, and that's a really good starter is to find someone that went to the same college as you.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but if I get a message from somebody on LinkedIn that says, "Hey, I see that you're connected with so and so. can you introduce me? I'm happy to do that, because these are people I know and I'm connected with, and
We did
typically I respect.
actually recently get something like that where someone was like, "Hey, you work for this company. Can I pick your brain?" And I was like,
Yeah,
of course you can. I would love to talk about my company. I love, where I work, and so it was just like really cool because it came full circle. I was at that point
right.
once, and it humbles you, and it's like, yes, I will talk
Pay
about
it forward.
it with you. Yeah, exactly. And I'll continue to do that because I remember being in that position too.
Exactly.
And I'll
And we're
probably be
always
in it again one day.
exactly. We're always susceptible to being in that position again in the future, and networking never hurts. It's always a good thing, typically. And so yeah, so I would say those are the two keys to approaching a company is one, make sure your LinkedIn is up to date and represents who you are and what you've done as best as you can. And I would say even reaching out to people that you've worked with that know your work ethic and that type of thing, and ask them for a recommendation on LinkedIn, because that speaks a lot for who you are,
Yeah.
about who you are, if you've got people that are willing to do that. Because if you look, not too many people on LinkedIn have very many, if any, recommendations. So it's pretty powerful when you can get someone to do that for you, and it gives a little insight to those recruiters about the type of candidate you might be.
Yep.
And and I have found over the years the recruiters kind of find me. I usually tell them, I'm not in a position to make a change, because I'm not really. It's funny we're talking about this because I'm not really a big fan of making a lot of moves. There's people that say, oh, I make a job change every 2 years,
Yeah.
and I don't personally subscribe to that. My dad worked for the same company, Southern California Gas Company, for 30 years and retired. 30 plus years and retired from there. And I really respect that. I think that if you can find a good company that you're working for, stay with them. And I've done that to a large degree. I was with Ingram Micro for 6 years. Um, Verizon Wireless was only 3, but I got recruited away. And I kind of reached where I wanted to go there. And to be frank, my boss was totally supportive of me.
Yeah. And it's still, like you said, a mentor to you. So it just is a testament
Yeah,
to you as a worker and the
exactly.
relationship you guys
He
built.
cared about me as a human being. Um, and a good manager, by the way, will do that. They won't hold you back. They'll want to see you succeed, whether that's in the same company or even in another. But I was at ADP for 10 years, and then Kronos for 5. And so Kronos slash UKG, they merged and became UKG. So I'm a proponent of staying with the company if they're if you're finding success and enjoying what you do and all of that.
And I think the first question I asked you when I was looking at these different internships I wanted to take is, where do you think I can grow the most in? And it's because I remember your friend Mark Witcher, he talked about how he got an internship with ADP and
Yes,
he had built his way up and he was there for like how many years? Like
I think it was close to
40,
20 years. Yeah,
20 years. That's insane.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that's what I wanted is I wanted to find somewhere where I could just build and build and build because I really do value finding a company and like once they believe in you, just believing in them and no job, just like no relationship is perfect, but it's about learning to just grow. And
Well, and Mark wasn't just a friend. He was actually my boss. He hired me at ADP, and I worked for him for a lot of years. We became friends, of course, but um, well, not of course. He's just a really great guy, and he was the type of person that, because he had grown up in the company, he really loved the company, and wanted people that also love the company, but he also wanted to see people grow and succeed. And he was a big, if you worked for him, he was a big advocate for you, um, and was very supportive when when you're wanting to to improve yourself.
Mhm.
He helped me get into a leadership program and those kind of things at ADP, which they had a really great program for that type of thing.
Yep.
I'm rambling now. I'm sorry, Emma.
You're okay. I think we've kind of finished all of our topics though, and
Yeah.
yeah, just kind of talked it through. But we really wanted to finish this whole podcast off with a really deep question we had for each other.
Yeah, I've got a question for you, Emma.
Let's hear it.
If I was a drink, what drink would I be?
Well, at first I said Angry Orchard when we were thinking like, oh, what question would we ask each
Am
other?
I angry? Or
No, but an Angry Orchard is sweet, so it's like you look tough and mean on the outside, but you're like, exactly, but you're like sweet little old man.
wow. Okay. Wow.
but But here's one thing about you. Your closet is coordinated, color coordinated. You're a very clean person. You're very sophisticated and like you love to like dress so like just prestigious, I guess you would say.
Professional. Okay.
Prestigious is the word I'll use.
All right.
Professional. So I would say you'd go for like a red wine. Like really good Cabernet. Um,
I
yeah,
enjoy a good Cabernet, actually.
you even if we're playing pool or like doing something like we're in the jacuzzi, just like a glass of red wine to finish off your night, and it's just very classy. And that's just the type of guy you are. You keep it classy. You're never one to, I don't know. I've never seen you with just like a beer, like hanging out. You're very like it's right moment with pasta for an Italian dinner, like we're having a good conversation, a glass of red wine.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Although I do enjoy a nice cold
Cool.
beer occasionally.
Yeah, but I like a
The
barbecue.
right occasion.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. All right. Well, thank you, Emma. I appreciate that. I think. Um, so I was trying to think of a drink for you. Like, what would you be if you were a drink? And when I think of you, I think of somebody that likes to have fun. Yes, you can, when you're at work, you do your job and all that, but even at work, it needs to be fun. It needs to be interactive. You need to be involved with people. So I'm thinking either like a pina colada, a strawberry daiquiri. I remember even when you were a kid, I would make blended virgin strawberry daiquiris, and you loved them
No,
because I'd
it
put
was strawberry margaritas.
or margarita. Yeah, same thing. Only daiquiri is rum or tequila, whatever you're in the mood for. But I'd make a virgin drink for you, and you used to love those when you're young and felt sophisticated or whatever because you could have a drink in a fancy glass with the umbrella and a straw. And
And I remember whenever you had a glass of wine, you would always let me grab it, stir it around, and sniff it. And I felt like I have my virgin margarita and I'm sipping wine. You can't beat this. Like, this is the best it gets.
that's funny.
That was so cool.
There you go. So fun drink from you with an umbrella drink, something
Yeah,
fun and enjoyable and fresh and kind of fruity in a positive kind of refreshing type of way. And that's what I would pick for you.
I love it. That is like one of my favorite drinks. Like I love like a margarita for hanging out by the pool with salt on the rim and
Blended, little
jalapeno,
blend.
like a little bit of jalapeno. Love a spicy
Mm.
margarita. One time I said spicy marg, and Riley, my best friend, looks at me and she goes, "Who's Marg?" And I'm like, I thought it was like a common term. It was funny.
Yeah, that's funny.
But,
Well, it's great chatting with you once again, Emma. Looking forward to the next one. So next week,
we have another special
we
guest.
have another guest, our second guest.
Favorite.
Should we give the name out or should we
We'll keep it a
keep
secret.
it a surprise? Okay.
And in a few weeks, you'll be here podcasting with me.
Yes, that's true. I will be podcasting from the same location.
That's right. All right, well, I will catch you later next week with our special guest.
Yes.
All right, see ya.
Bye, Emma.